I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in silence to let them in, talk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes.
Welcome to the first Digital Sales Community Masterclass for 2022. Oh my God, I'm so fired up for today's guest. I present to you the undisputed face of luxury real estate, the man who has been awarded by Ray White Group the #1 salesperson across the state of New South Wales and extended to the Ray White Group globally 18 and 19 as his first year as principal, ranked #1 across Australia and New Zealand. This industry titan is currently starring on Amazon Prime, Lux Listing Sydney, and on the 1st of April will be appearing on Amazon Prime, Lux Listings Season 2. Digital Sales Community members, I present to you the one, the only, Gavin Rubinstein. Welcome, mate.
Oh, that intro was fantastic. You're making me out to be a hell of a lot better than I am, man. I might get you to just come around with me for the tour to launch the show and pump me up like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. And, if anything, just hope today everyone listening gets some sort of value from, our conversation. That's what it's about, right?
Absolutely. And as I said beforehand, the last 10 to 15 minutes will open up to a Q&A with the rest of the group. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. The last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll go through them. But Gav, as I read through those list of accolades, the one thing that stands out over and over and over again is this word, and it comes up to me, it's called consistency. Talk to us a little bit about that.
There's a saying too that real estate agents, the only consistency with real estate agents is their inconsistency. So they say real estate agents are consistent with being inconsistent. And I think we can make that kind of a bit more generally and apply to all salespeople, because if you're a salesperson, you're a salesperson, right? Your currency is energy, your currency is time. One of my mentors, his name's Mark McLeod. I just did a podcast with him. Mentor, but more so coach, right? I think everyone needs a good coach, or coaches for that matter, no matter what level you're at. That was one of the things he taught me. He said, look, if you want to stand out, get consistent. So to me, early on, I had this plan on what I wanted my business to look like early on, I'm saying from the beginning. And my ambitions have mapped towards that plan ever since. And part of it was to be consistent. So, I do really appreciate when you pick it up and say that's what you noticed, because, I remember the first night I won that award. And for people who don't know, that award is based across, the whole Ray White Group. And, the first night I did win that award, I remember saying to Jerome, who was my first and only employee at the time, who's now a partner of mine in the property management business, we got to do this again. Because any agent, any salesperson, anybody in what they do can have a good year. You know what I mean? Anyone can have a good year, but let's do it a second time. And when we do it a second time, let's do it a third time. And we do it a fourth time. Let's just keep doing it. So we can create this consistent sort of business. And sure as enough, the next day I was the first person in the office. Everyone else was hungover. Everyone else had a lot to drink. I had a lot to drink that night as well. But I was first in there and working like I never got that award. And I think that's been a metaphor for my entire professional career, and will continue to be so right up until the end.
So talk me through this. So going into 2013, before you won this award, what did your consistency, what did your habits look like then to achieve those results? And I guess, what do they look like now, and do they differ that much?
It's a good question. And you got to make me dig deep because 2013, like I'm getting on, man. So that was a while ago. I always, and this may sound cliche to a lot of people, I've always had this like unconditional belief in myself, and where does that come from? It comes from work ethic. Over the years, it's come from being consistent. So now it's different to what it was because I wasn't consistent then, right? It came from a mother who just like, I could do really no wrong by except not get good grades, but told me everything I did was amazing as a kid. It came from all of these factors. But I remember looking at agents when I was an assistant, because I started as an assistant for the first couple of years, getting coffees, learning the ropes, studying the market, and looking at the guys who were at the top and just being fascinated by wanting to learn and enjoying the learning process. So, my mentality around it was always these guys, had a certain list of behaviors and a certain level of structure that they applied in their business that got them particular results. And from the outset looking in, my mindset was like, in time, there's no way that I won't be able to do this. Now, looking back at it, I don't know why I thought that, because it's hard. And so that's why I kind of digress from your question again and say, I've always had this unwavering belief in myself that I could do it. Having said that, I was really shit at everything else pretty much in life. And I never really succeeded or excelled at much. I mean, when I was at school, I used to be a hip hop dancer, which I know is a little bit weird. But I excelled in that and I focused on it. I was passionate about it. And I was like, yeah, I was born to do this. And the only other, area I felt that has been real estate. That's been on another whole level. So I guess to summarize, I just know I was born for this. So it's really kind of, maybe it was lucky that I found it. I really found my passion early on, mixed with having the belief that I could do what the best did, even as an assistant with no real experience. And then the third part was learning how they did it and then applying it to the execution side of it. And so to answer your question fully, does it differ to now? Yeah. I mean, I'm not getting coffees anymore. Not to say I think I'm not, like, I'll get a coffee for myself straight away, but I get coffees for my team. So, but I'm not, the game when I started and I was an assistant was prospect as much as you can.
And when you say, sorry, Gav, to interrupt, but when you say prospect as much as you can, just so for people listening to this that want to be, in the top 1% of their field, or the top 0.01% or number one, when you say prospect, like how many calls are you making? What does that prospecting look like? Like, what was that process?
So when I was an assistant, my deal was 30 conversations a day. It's like, I'm really not a smart dude. So I like to keep things really simple. Otherwise they go over my head, right? So the way I looked at it and worked with my coaches at the time was, if I had 30 new conversations a day, Monday to Friday, and I did that religiously, right?
And could that be like you walk down the coffee shop and you run into someone that you know and you speak to them for 10? No, actually.
It's on top of all that, no matter what, and not dials, it's 30 conversations a day. That meant Monday to Friday, it was 150 new business opportunities a week. Now, look, I can't add that up over 52 weeks off the top of my head, but that's
can't either.
That's a shitload of business opportunities, and so if you're consistent, and you picked the key word, and I think it's a great place to start this conversation, because most people aren't, over time, that compounds. Does that make sense? So, if you're having 150 conversations a week religiously for 5 years, and you're having the right conversations with the right people in relation to prospecting, you can't lose. Proven, tested formula. The big piece is you actually have to do it, and you have to do it consistently. And most people get caught up, one day I'm feeling off, I'm not going to do it. I've got my cousin's wedding today, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go away here when I haven't done, what I said I was going to do. I haven't necessarily earned the right to go away because I'm new to the business. So I'm not going to do it. I'm sick today. I'm not going to do it. I hurt my leg. I'm not going to do it. For me, it was like, no matter what, I was showing up and I was doing it. And it's kind of like the old adage of like, you know, you hang around in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. Quick real story on belief and consistency. I don't know if anyone pays attention to NBA basketball, but I'm a fanatical fan, not because I play the game. I'm about, 5 foot, so there's no chance that would have worked. But putting aside the fact that I love the athleticism in these guys, what I love about the game is actually what I learned from the sport and how I can apply it in my own world to help my own salespeople, business, and team. There's a guy called Russell Westbrook who just got traded to LA. And for like the last 6 months, he's been trash. And he's a really well-known player, and there were all these high expectations. And he's been missing shot after shot after shot, and bad play after bad play after bad play. And he was doing a media interview recently where he's like, this got so bad for me in LA. People are calling me Russell Westbrick. People are snarling at my kids. My wife can't go shopping without people yelling slander at her. It's getting pretty serious because the USA is fanatical about sport. Anyway, a game last week, the Lakers are down by 2. There's a few seconds left. He steals the ball, and they weren't even at a home game. So they were in visitor territory. Steals the ball, puts up a 3, and takes the game into overtime, and the Lakers win. And I learned so much from that sequence, I can't tell you, right? In relation to consistency and never giving up. Because, and it kind of is attached to hanging around the barbershop, you're going to get a cup type quote, because he never stopped putting up shots, and eventually it broke for him. Too many people are consistent, but they quit early. They in fact quit just before it's about to break. And a media reporter asked him, they said, where do you get this confidence from, man? You've had a hard run, but you make this amazing play. Most people would have been dead months ago. And he looks at her with the most confidence I've ever seen. And he said, I've made 23,000 shots in my career. And it's like he keeps putting up the shots. So I think there's a lot to learn from that.
And in regards to going back to those habits for a second, so we're going back to 2013 just for a second, because I think to understand success and talk about consistency, the things that I really take away from these conversations are very much understanding like what those days look like, and following you for a while and knowing you. Gav, I can see glimpses of your life, but I don't know what that day in, day looks like. So you're 2013, you're making your 30 connections every day. What does the rest of your day look like?
Get in front of as many people who owned a property as possible, period.
And how would you go about that?
Phone calls, cold calls, glorified telemarketer.
Yeah.
That's it. So I used to, like, you got to peel it back. Like, I looked at the people who were at the top of the game. What did these people have? They had a ridiculous work ethic. They were all different in terms of age, look, size, ethnicity, or, there's no prerequisite for that to succeed in real estate. They all worked hard. They all had this thing called profile, and how do you build profile? So I reverse engineered that, and you build profile. The best way to build profile is listings. It's sales, it's signboards in your marketplace. The best way to build profile is doing a phenomenal job for a client and having them rave about you, creating raving fans. And then, of course, you got the stuff, the social media, the advertising. At that point, there was no Instagram, but you had the Facebook, you had newspapers, you had digital sort of ads. So I just like to keep it simple, and how was I going to be able to get these ads, which led to the profile? I'd have to make the phone calls to prospect to get the listing. So it's just reverse engineering and breaking it down to make it as simple for just a normal bloke like me to understand. It was what I knew I needed to do to get to where I wanted to be. And no matter how I felt, even if it wasn't good, I did those activities. And I think as I started to hit milestones, like that first year I got number 1, I think that was by fluke because the top agent had kind of left the Ray White group early or something like that. And when I got a taste, it became addictive. And then I just started to really look at how can I improve and develop this thing called, consistency. And I just did everything I could to create the sort of structures to ensure that each day I was getting better, and still do that today. Like, that hasn't changed.
And tell us, outside of the obviously the sales, building the profile, which you've obviously been incredibly good at, that's clearly. What are some of those other daily habits that set you up for success? What do they look like?
So to me, like I said earlier on, any salesperson, their currency is time and energy. That's it. So, how do I become a master at managing my energy? How do I do that? Let me start to pay attention to the things that make me feel really, really good and drive my energy in a positive way. And let me pay attention also when I go through things that make me feel really bad and they drown my energy, in a negative way. And I'm going to learn, and everyone's different, and this is an individual thing. I'm going to learn what I like and what I don't like, and I'm going to do everything I can to harness what I like to continue my progression constantly. And I'm going to make all conscious efforts to stay the fuck away from anything that drowns my energy, in a negative capacity, and have a zero level of tolerance for that. Putting the energy aside, the time factor was about, like, the difference between a good real estate agent and the rest of them is a good real estate agent gets paid for their time. It's the same with salespeople. There are time thieves everywhere, from clients to colleagues. So you've got to learn how to qualify. Everything I talk about has, a relationship. And if you qualify at the outset and the beginning, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. That's with the clients. We've all got those colleagues who walk around the office, the water cooler. They want to have a chat. They want to go for a coffee, cut all of that out. Understand that the management of your time is really going to set up the structure to become consistent. Depending on what level you want to perform at. I always knew from that outset, like, I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to create a certain brand and a certain legacy. So I'm very, very extreme. I worked out things like I'm picking up my dry cleaning. I'm getting my own meals. I'm opening my own mail. I'm booking my own personal appointments. I'm even getting coffees, and I'm waiting 10 minutes a day for the barista to make my coffee. Whereas if I cut all of that out, whether it's ordering my coffee and my breakfast before I arrive, so I'm not waiting 10 minutes a day, to I've got, certain people in place or a team member who are picking up my dry cleaning and who are opening up my mail and are handling all these aspects. I'm getting all of this time, which again compounds over the course of a year, which I can spend then on more prospecting, which will mean more business, which will mean more profile, which will mean I'm closer to what I've set out to do here in the first place. Am I making sense, or am I rambling?
No, dude, you're making a lot of sense. The question that I had for you, and this is like an outsider looking in, the one thing that I see you is, and as you just outlined, you're efficient, and I know even you get your haircuts, a bar become your house, and you get coffees delivered, and all of that stuff. How do you manage burnout, and how do you stop yourself from being burnt out? Because the way that I see you manage your time, that you're so efficient, and you fit so much into a day, an outsider looking in will go, if they didn't know you beforehand, we go, at some stage he's going to burn out, or he's going to need some extended time off, or he's going to need to press the reset button. How have you managed to not burn out? Because, consistently backing it up year on year on year on year, it does create pressure for some people. How have you managed to not allow that to consume you and allow that to, lead you to burnout ultimately?
Yeah, so I think energy management plays a major part here, right? Typical salesperson, I'm good with targets. Like, I'm real good with targets. If I set a target, I'm zoning in, I'm honing in, I'm tunnel visioning. There is nothing I see in my path but that target. Everything else is distorted by what I'm looking at. And so what I have to do in order to hit it becomes obsolete, even if it seems unrealistic. It just innately kind of gets done. And I found what positively drove my energy, and what still positively drives my energy, is going overseas. Like, I love traveling, and I love, even now more than ever, because my own free time and personal just space has never been so limited. But I love to travel. And so, like, Europe in July, I love to go to Greece, the vibe there, the energy, Italy, the states, the states in depending on what time of the year it is. And so I worked out that if I pre-booked my holidays with the school holiday calendar in mind, so, you know, I'd be going away when the market was kind of least productive. I had something to look forward to multiple times a year. And it also created this like unbelievable productivity because I knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And if I wasn't going to perform at a certain level, I wasn't going to take the break because I wouldn't have deserved it. And I knew how badly my energy needed it. So I always performed. And by the time it came to have a holiday, I'd have my break, refresh, replenish all of those thresholds that were depleted over the course of that run and come back a new man and do it all again. Again, this is going back to what drives your energy. So that may not be the same for everybody. For me, that's what kind of made me fresh again. And I've done that year on year on year. COVID got a bit tougher. I'm not going to lie. It got a bit tougher, but you know, now that we can travel again, you know, it's back to basics for me.
And so for you, is it a break every 3 months that you lock in advance? Is that what you're saying on the school holidays? That's when you're having your week off, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off. Like how much time are you taking off? And the reason why I'm asking this question is, working with business owners all the time, the one thing that I see is people want to push and push and push and push because I think that pushing will lead to more results. And to some degree, I actually think that it will, but there is actually that tipping point where you actually start to go backwards. So the reason why I'm really kind of curious about this question is for a lot of the business owners that are listening to this, and the majority of the community are actually business owners, that setting that time, you know, 3 months in advance, 6 months in advance, 9 months in advance, 12 months in advance, just how bloody important is that to get that right?
Absolutely key. And it's structure, you know, it's the structure that you need. Look, some people may say, I want to be able to spend time with my kids. That gives me energy, makes me feel like a new person. So then put that aside to do it to that capacity. Not everyone has to go to Greece or to LA. With COVID, you know, launching a new TV show, opening my new office, building from 5 people to 30 people in a 2-year period, you know, going through all of the usual adversity that we all experience in one way or another in life and not having a break. I got to the end of last year and I was a freaking shell of a human. I
saw you at the Carlisle Hotel in December and you didn't look like a shell of a human.
That was when I took my break. And then I went on to the States after that, but I felt it, you know, I really felt it not being able to have that break. Having said that, you're right, because I didn't have a break for 2 years and I had the best 2 years ever. So I learned from that too. I learned that you can always push harder than you think. You know, we all think that we need at the earlier days, I was taking 4 holidays a year, not negotiable because I needed it, right? But now I'm like, I had a holiday in December and I'm like, look, I'm only going to go away in July. Like, I don't need a holiday in 3 months because I did 2 years. Like I can do 6 months and still maintain that level. But I got to a point last year where clients were calling me and I was saying, look, I'm not useful to you right now, given the headspace I'm in. Usual things I did that I never would have done. I'd go in and see a $12 million property, not even follow them up. And then early this year, I saw it listed and I looked at it and I learned from it. And I just said, I expected this, like I expected that, but that was the sort of state I was in. So again, it depends on the individual. To me, you have to have a couple of breaks a year, particularly in sales. Our clients take everything from us. Our staff take everything from us. They also give a lot. It's give and take, but you know, we've got to replenish those resources.
So I hope you're getting as much value out of this masterclass as myself and the digital sales community members are receiving right now. You might be thinking, how do I get access to more content like this? To feel more motivated, feel inspired, but most importantly, gain access to learning the right skills to grow your business. The digital sales community is the #1 platform for business owners who want to take their success to the next level. Each week, business owners just like you learn how to generate more leads, close more deals, and how to massively turn the dial on revenue. So if you want more content like this, click to join the digital sales community post this video. We look forward to being a part of your success. Now let's jump right back to the video I have for you, which I think is really applicable to business owners. I think that one is actually, it's one of those things that's not talked enough about, that energy management piece. And for you, that obviously works. And for myself, that works really nicely as well. Something I don't live by enough, but it does work really nicely when I do. It's something to look forward to. If you were to go into like another business, like with your experiences, but people don't know who Gavin Rubinstein is, that you don't have the social media profile, you start from scratch again, like Grant Cardone. Was it a TV series he did? Was it like Undercover Millionaire? Where effectively in 90 days, he's got to kind of make $1 million. If you were a business owner, you go into mortgage broking, you go into a marketing business, accountancy business, what would you do in that first 90 days to ensure your success? What would that look like?
Great question. And I can answer that because, like, I know some people may hear my surname, whatever, and think that there was a family leg up, or there was family history in real estate, or absolutely not. You know, I've still to this day, like, never been overseas with my parents. No one in my family did real estate. There was no leg up or help anywhere. So I would say I'm a pre-qualified person to answer that question. Step one, it's what I said before. Whatever you decide to do, make sure you're passionate about it. Make sure you love it. Like, I don't go to work every day because I love what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? So if you're in a business right now, I hope, and you don't love it and you're not enjoying the process, I hope, you know, I can send off some light bulbs in your head to get the hell out of it and find something that you do like, because you're never going to be great and really excel in something that you don't enjoy doing. You know, you can tell Hugh just looking at some of the content you put out recently over the coming weeks that, you know, has got my attention. You love doing what you're doing. You're passionate about it. You know, you've got this energy.
You get me excited, dude. You get me excited.
No, you're authentic about it. You're dedicated. You do what you say you're going to do. You're punctual. You're on time. You can tell you're enthused and you're excited. I can pick and tell if someone is in a job or a role that they're not enthused by. And unfortunately, it's most people, right? So that's step one, be enthused. Step two is find some people in that business who have the sort of business that you want to create. People who have tried and tested, and say to them, would you mind if, I know you're really busy, but would you mind if I took you for a 15-minute coffee? I'm new to the business. I've written down 10 questions I'd like to ask you. I'm not going to fluff. We're not going to get into small talk. I'm not going to take up much of your time. I just really admire the business you built, and I'd love to get some tips and pointers to help me with my journey. Success leaves clues. You know, to me, I'm white belt mentality every single day. It's like, what I love most about my game is how much I learn. You know, I'm learning so much. I've learned so much in the past 2 to 3 years. You know, real estate business, now TV business, business owner, staff, HR, builder, developer, marketing manager, recruiter. You know, I'm learning all of these things. So sit down with someone who's doing really well and ask them questions, because success leaves clues. Then number 3, set up a plan. You know, what do you want to achieve, and what do you need to do in order to get that? You know, the top 3 things, like, just keep it really simple, and just make sure every day that your actions map towards your ambitions. You know what I mean? I think that's absolutely paramount. And I would just focus on that for the first 90 days. If you're getting in a business to get rich quick or make money quick, good luck. That's all I'll say.
And talk me through the personal branding piece. Like the personal branding piece blows my mind from what I see outwardly looking in, how many business owners, people potentially get it wrong. You have the thing that I see from you, and I feel like I'm correct in saying this, I'm going to say it anyway, is you're very authentic in who you are, and that's what you promote. How have you gone about promoting your personal brand? How important is that? Do you outsource it now? What does that look like? Because I personally think for the majority of business owners in this community, outside this community, I think there's 93% of Australian business owners in Australia that are classified small businesses. They turn over less than $2 million. I think it's 80% of them live paycheck to paycheck. And there's this thing called personal brand, which you seem to have absolutely epitomized. How important is personal brand, and how do you manage it?
Well, first off, thank you for that compliment. I appreciate that because a lot goes into it on my end. I know not everyone's gonna like me. I'm not in this game for everybody to like me. It's that saying, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Have you heard that before?
I have heard that, yeah.
Cool. So that's kind of been my mindset, and just winding it back to what I said earlier, having this mindset mentality of when I have a target in my sight, everything else becomes, somewhat distorted. So one of the things I said to you was, when I was studying some of the top performers in my industry, I realized that whilst they were all different, they all had one or two things that were the same. One was work ethic. The second was profile. I just said it earlier on. And in order to build a profile, you had to have an amazing practice, which I was working on. But simultaneously, another really great way to build your profile is through that of a personal brand. And so then this everything I say has layers, but they're all kind of attached, and we can work backwards. So how do you build a personal brand? Well, you said it yourself. You've got to be authentic. I can't be Hugh can't be Gav. So, a lot of these younger real estate agents these days are looking in on me and what I do, and they're trying to emulate what I'm doing, and it's not working for them because that's not authentic to who that they are. Make sense? Absolutely. So at the end of the day, you've got to be authentic. And again, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. So I guess I enjoy every aspect that is getting me closer to my end goal. So I just by, I don't know, by chance, I don't know, purposely inbuilt in me as a human, because I'm so intensely and laser focused on getting to certain levels. I just enjoy the marketing side of it. I don't outsource it. I have stakeholders who assist me in certain aspects of it. So what I mean by that is, I've got a guy who runs the office's social media, not mine, but doesn't do anything without me approving it and designing it. He runs the paid property ads that benefit our vendors. I've got X Media, who are my videographers. They do real estate diaries, and they do videos for my properties. I've got a guy who records my podcasts, but none of those guys work without me driving the hell out of them. It's so
and talk to that, because that's a really interesting point. So when you say without you driving the hell out of them, what does that mean?
I conceptualize, like, everything you see in terms of my content, the 99.9% of it is my idea. And I'm across every detail. So you've got to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. Let me give you an example. I'm a severely detailed, oriented little fucking dude. Like, and this ties into what I do, right? So, like, from architecture to design to aesthetics to luxury, it's all authentic in who I am and what I'm passionate about and what drives me. So when you have a look at, say, a real estate diaries video that I'll put out every few months, I've picked every song, I've designed the concept in conjunction with X Media. I've had a look at raw footage, picked the bits I want, taken a video that's 20 minutes and cut it down to 4 minutes by picking every single second. I'm the architect of everything that's going on, but have experts in the field to make sure that pragmatically it works, if that makes sense. It's no different to like an architect, right? And the architect I've got is building my second office right now. Anna is her name. Anna, this is what I want to do. Here's my inspiration. Here are examples. Here's the feel. Here's the look. Use your skill set and bring me something that is in line with what I'm saying.
And Gav, where have you drawn your inspiration from? Because I'm going to be honest with you. When I was growing up as a kid in Melbourne, being a real estate agent, honestly, wasn't cool. And now
it's changing though.
No. And now I'm saying that you have kind of brought this like LA approach to agents. And I know like Ryan Serhant and those guys in the US have also kind of brought that culture over here. But being an agent now is something that like I hear kids talk about, like it's really aspirational. Like, where are you grabbing your inspiration from? Because I feel like you've actually created a culture around real estate and you've actually rebranded real estate in Australia. So talk me through like that cultural piece and how like seeing things or did I hear on a podcast that you're getting someone like from Tom Ford in the US to speak to your team about something. So you're constantly seeking out inspiration, but then bringing that back to your business. Talk me through that a little bit more.
Again, first off, thank you. I mean, you've thrown some big compliments out there at me, and I'm going to take them all. You're making me sound much better than I am. Me personally, I'm really driven by greatness in anything and everything, and like I'm inspired by people who are great at what they do and feel I can learn something from everybody at every point to better my business. You know, years ago when I made the decision that I wanted to really put everything into this game, it's almost like the universe got on board with me and was like, whatever you see, whatever messages we send you, we're going to make in your mind it possible for you to relate that back to your business so you can get better and then you can progress. So what you were talking about, you know, I was recently in LA. I think a lot of real estate agents in general get cocky, and I think a lot of real estate agents get complacent. And I think a lot of real estate agents get arrogant. Now, from an outsider looking in, pure perception, that may be some of the perceptions out there of me, but anybody who knows my practice and my business knows that, you know, we couldn't be further from that, because what I'm all about is customer service. What I'm all about is creating an experience. Again, I said this at the beginning of this conversation, best way to build profile is do a good job for your client and create a raving fan. That is the best way to build profile and get more business. That is number one to me. So taking this further and deeper, how can I create a real estate experience, not only for myself as a service, but for my office and the people who work here as a brand, as TRG, so everybody can start to have the success, you know, that I have had. And so, you know, I have been for the last 6 odd years since I've been able to afford it and been traveling to LA, you know, a really good client of Tom Ford on Rodeo Drive, right? And there's a salesperson there who is incredible. And
what makes him incredible?
Okay, the experience he creates when I'm in the store, his response time, his ability to say, do what he says he's going to do, and just the general feel I get from this guy of how much he loves his stuff and his product knowledge. So, you know how I say I can pick when someone is like miserable and not enjoying what they're doing? I can also pick when someone freaking is a master of their craft and loves what they're doing. You know, so for me, and when I go to a cafe or I have any sort of experience whatsoever, to me, good service is like right up there with good sex. You know, and I mean that because I've built my whole game on this thing called service, which a lot of people don't know from the outside looking in, but it would be impossible for me to get that level of consistency, get those accolades without, you know, providing a phenomenal service that stands out and creating raving fans. So, you know, this guy, when I got to Tom Ford for the last 5-6 years, I've just noticed he's been amazing. And so then we get into conversation. Whenever I'm there, you know, he creates this experience for me. He makes me want to go back, and he makes me spend so much money because he's so good. And I actually ended up saying to him, this is 6 years later, my recent trip in December, I'm like, what, are you like the best fucking salesman in the company or what? And he's like, I'm the number one salesperson for Tom Ford for the whole of the States. And I'm like, I could tell that. I'm like, would you be open to speaking to my whole team? Because I really like them to learn, not as a real estate agent, but as a salesperson in another business, what you've done that's worked for you. At the same, or in the same vein, I always stay at this hotel called the Beverly Hills Hotel in LA. They stitch you up on price and they stitch you up on the bill, but the service. So I'm okay with them doing that because the service is so phenomenal. They provide so much value to me when I have my experience there and my stay. So I've also got, one of the head managers talking to my guys, I think it is next week, to see what more we can learn. The experience is everything, not from just the salespeople, from the girls at the front to the salespeople, to the support staff, to any person, no matter what capacity or no matter what role they play, who represents my brand and business, needs to be aligned with what we represent as a culture and as a brand to the marketplace. And everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid, because I constantly have clients come in here who say, everyone's so polite. They always greet us. They always say hello. They always greet us by our name. A little trick I learned from the Beverly Hills Hotel. Whenever I'm walking through the lobby, g'day, sir, good morning, smile, be happy, good energy. I'm waking up every morning with the mindset of what can I learn today to make myself and my business better? And I then apply it and I execute on it. The end.
And so the thing that I've noticed with dealing with you, Gav, leading up to this is your responsiveness, like it coming back to the whole idea of really kind of call it customer service or client management, whatever you want to call it. But, as soon as I send you an email or a text.
It's the key. Hugh, like, I'm the busiest I've ever been by a mile. Like, everyone's busy. I don't want to go over what I'm doing right now, but like, if I had a little, those GoPros on my back and you came with me for a day, you'd be like, what is this dude eating for breakfast? Because sometimes I get to the end of my day, reflect on it, and I'm like, how on earth did I just do that and do it well? The big thing today is response time. We are living in a world where people want things boom. They want things lightning. And if you're not going to give it to them, a competitor will. Believe me, a competitor will. Uber fucked every business owner in the world. Everyone. It's Uber's fault, because what that did to customer expectation was, because of the immediacy of their service, take it from the bottom to the absolute top. And you need to be in line with that. I know I'm time poor. I know I'm busy. I know it frustrates me when I don't get that super quick response. So even in our dealings, you always get a response from me. It always comes quick. But not only me, everybody in my office, from the support to the front girls to the salespeople, I drill this concept into them about service today is responsive and it's quick.
And talk to me through this though. Like, how do you set boundaries? Because there's business owners that I speak to and I've observed that haven't actually set boundaries with the client. And so what tends to happen is that they've said that they're going to do X project and they're working extra hours. They're working on weekends when, the agreement was that they work 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Is your view that the idea now is that, back to the Uber point, that you now it's expected to work 7 days, or have you been good at also with certain clients, certain vendors, of setting boundaries also in your dealings?
No fucking boundaries. When the door of opportunity gets knocked on, I will answer that door no matter what time it is, so long as I'm conscious and awake and not asleep. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. It doesn't matter what is. I'm trying to build something here. I'm not going to miss an opportunity. Why do I want to miss an opportunity? And it depends what level you're at. So there are some people who will not resonate with what I'm saying because they only want to get to a level and they're okay with that. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with where I'm at. I'm chasing something that's really, really far away from me. In order to get there, I've got to make up those miles. So, I've even got 2 phones. Right now, my second phone is with my junior agent upstairs. So there's always a line from the marketplace to me and I'm always available so I can always be responsive. That may not be so in your business. I know in real estate, what do you hear all the time from people? That real estate agent never picks up his phone. I couldn't reach that guy. He was never available just to get the information I wanted. You know, you even said yourself, with everything I've got going on, you're kind of surprised how quick you're responding to the emails I'm sending you. Like, clients have that thought process too. Like, clients want to feel like, irrespective of how busy you are, they are your only client. They are your top priority. And when they know you're busy and they get that level of service, they become even more impressed. I always say with clients, set out to shock and awe them. Shock and awe. A little concept that I love to again instill in everyone who works with me. How am I going to stand out from the rest? How am I going to shock and awe these guys with my response time, with my all-around service, so that not only they use me again, but they tell every single person they know what a great experience that they had with Gavin Rubinstein and TRG, because that just is, we're moving and moving and moving.
And now kind of coming back to your office for a second, it's a really nice segue. Running a team now and a pretty large team, what's the operation at now, Gav?
30, but we're about to open a second space, which has room for 50, and we'll retain this space. So hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll have our 80.
How have you, when you've brought new employees on, new team members, new partners, whatever you want to call the team, how have you instilled this in them? Like, what's the framework that you've given them to set them up for success? And now that you're so busy with a whole bunch of other things on, how is that managed? How is that looked after? How are they supported?
You got some really good questions. You're making me think here.
Sorry, dude.
No. I enjoy it. Look, it's always a challenge, and I'm always learning, so it's evolving constantly. I've just hired a general manager.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Who one of her roles will be brand ambassador. Sorry, stop out of that. So, you know, how do you get to do it when you become busier and you're growing? You get support from people. That's number one. So how have I done it previously, and how have I got them across? Been really upfront with them from the outset. These are the standards. These are the expectations. And I think part of what attracted them to me in the first place was wanting to do better, wanting to be better, and being unified by things like progression, being unified by things like wanting to provide the best customer service and create an experience. Being unified by wanting to do better. So we have the conversation up front at the start. We identify there are areas I can add value to not only their business, but in turn their life, because if their business is good, their life is going to be better. And we go on this journey together. And yeah, look, the market has been good. So that's helped too. Let's not forget that. But every single person who has joined me is a hell of a lot better than where they were beforehand.
And then kind of getting granular again for a second, in terms of the guys' KPIs, you back in 2013, you had the KPIs of 30 touch points a day over the course of a week. It's 150 touch points. Is that the same formula that the team now have, or how has that changed since then?
Well, yeah, if they're a prospect, 100%. So I've given these guys the blueprint, but you do different things when you get to different levels, and there's never a top or a final level. It just gets higher and higher and higher. So if they're a prospector, yeah, it's at 30 conversations a day. So all the prospectors in the office have the exact same tally sheet that I had, and they're managing their 30 calls a day. It's kind of, I never think about it. I never really reflect like I am now, because I'm moving at such a quick pace. But when I even say that, I get a bit of a smile on my face, because it's kind of cool that literally a few hours ago, this new guy who started, never been in real estate, he's a prospector for one of my lead agents, and he's sitting there with the same tally sheet I've got. He's on the phone and he's going through it. You know, it's really cool to see that happening. But I've given the agents who work with me my blueprint, so they're modeling their business pretty much in their own way, because everyone's an individual, but off of the key fundamentals that for me, put me in the position I'm in today. And so I really encourage things like building a team, building people around you. I mean, you take my team out of this picture and I'm nowhere and I'm nothing. I'm good at a couple of things here. You know what I mean? There are so many facets you've got to be good at to be at my level. So my team helped me with that. You've got to know what you're good at, know what you're bad at. It's building people to give you capacity to take it to the next level. So we've got everyone in here. There's no one standalone agent. There's 6 different pods. You've got my pod, which is 5 people. You've got Pat's pod, which is 5 people. Ollie's pod, which is 4 people, Kai's pod, which is 4 people, and Zach's pod is 2 people, about to be 3 people. So I really encourage, and drive this concept of this is a team sport. This is a team game. Gone are the days when a successful real estate agent could just pick up the phone, put an ad in the paper, sell a property and be successful. Like, we need to provide an experience. We need to keep up with consumer expectation. We need to perform, and to do that on your own it's not possible, man. It's just not in today's day and age. It's not.
And talk me through that the team sport, because on an outsider looking in, real estate looks like it could be very individual, and obviously everyone's got their own team as the associate director is sitting, and then people are sitting underneath it. But how do you manage the team, like keeping team morale up? How do you obviously they're incentivized through comms, but what does that look like in terms of how you incentivize the team apart from a really good commission structure?
So are you talking incentivize my own personal team, or are you talking about incentivize individual pods?
Incentivize individual pods.
So we have at the moment it's once a fortnight meeting, and we talk about goals, personal and business, and I track their goals. So, again, let's keep this simple. You measure what you manage. What you manage, you measure. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you're tracking it, you can start to manage it. Now, what I mean by that is, if we know we did X amount 1 month, and we've set a target to hit Y after 6 months, we know what we've got to do the next 5 months. Like, we can manage it because we're measuring it. Does that make sense? So
you go back to, as you said at the start of the conversation, you reverse engineer it. You go, these are the things that we need to do each day to get to the result. And if you're not tracking towards that result, then you look at recalibrating it based on the current results.
Correct. And I'm also, just regularly checking in with these guys, setting targets, not hundreds, like small, simple. We want to write X in gross commission dollars. And then not break it down granular. Just know that on the basis of that, we've got to do a shitload of work in order to hit that. So let's get to it. You know what I mean?
And I think the biggest thing I see time and time again is people set these lofty goals, and they almost at some point feel overwhelmed by them, simply because they haven't broken it down into those smaller chunks that you mentioned beforehand. And then similar to, Russell Westbrook, having a period of 6 months, 5 months, not playing well, trusting in the process that even if you have 1 bad quarter or 2 bad quarters, that if you keep putting in the consistent work day in, day out, the results will come.
Dude, the world's gone soft. The world's gone freaking soft. Like I was just telling you before, real big injury, 2 bulging discs, pressing on my nerve, more pain I've ever felt in my entire life. I was in the hospital. The only time I left was to do my opens on a Saturday over the weekend. And I've not missed 1 day of work, now. Like, I'm in a position where if I wanted to, let's face it, like, I could, but that's not gonna help me get to where I'm going. You know what I mean? So I do think the world has gone soft, and people need to toughen up. And if it were easy, everyone would do it. It's not supposed to be easy. You know what I mean? It's not. And too many people quit too easily, and too many people want instant gratification. Too many people, are just obsessed with the destination rather than the journey. Another great phrase I like: the man who loves to walk will get further than the man who loves the destination. You know what I mean? He loves to walk, so he's going to get further. Guy who wants a destination, he's just focusing on the end result. I genuinely love the process. When I'm injured, when it's tougher, when it's harder, when I'm doing longer hours, 14, 15-hour days on the regular, whilst I'm hurt and I haven't been sleeping, I'm like, I'm going to come out of this so much freaking stronger. Like, I'm going to come out of this. When you're winning all the time, you're not learning much, man. I almost need the challenge. I'm addicted to the challenge. So you've got to shift that perspective. You know what I mean? Another great video I saw the other day was Steve Harvey. He was saying, like, it was all about perspective and just changing one word in a phrase. So he would say, I've got to go to work today, or I've got to go to the gym today. And he said, change got to get. I get to go to work today. I get to go to gym today. And I was like, that's how simple and basic it is. Like people need to toughen up. People need to not quit as quickly. Because like I said at the start of this conversation, that breakthrough happens like usually or is about to happen right before most people quit. Persistence has been, you talk about fundamentals, I've instilled from a young age and that is still, my religion now. Persistence it's got to be one of the main ones. I can never, ever give up. If it's what I want, I'm going to go after it. I'm never going to stop. Nothing. No.
Yeah. And how important it has throughout the course of the journey been having a coach, having support, having a mentor? Like, it sounds like you've had a number of mentors along the way, but has there been one consistent one throughout?
No, look, I wouldn't say I've had a consistent coach for like ages. Who I know. But I've got coaches who don't know me and don't know they're my coach. You know what I'm saying? So like LeBron James doesn't know who the hell I am, but he's a coach of mine. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a coach of mine because when you watch post-game interviews with him, particularly when he loses, and you get an insight into winning and championship mindset, how a guy who at the Mount Rushmore of basketball has been able to achieve what he has, putting aside, yes, the athleticism, the 6'8", the build, the talent, all of that. There are a lot of guys in the NBA who have the build, who have the talent, who have the athleticism, who have not achieved close to what he has. Well, it's the mindset and what I can learn from that to apply to my own world. So him amongst many, many others are my daily coaches. You know what I mean?
I love that. And lastly, I'm going to ask you one final question in a second. But guys, if you've loved this, in the comment section, shout out to Gavin Rubinstein for this masterclass and giving us his time today. If you have one final question, we might go to one final question of anyone that has it. So leave that in the comment section now. Patrick Farnham says, awesome. G Pump Aerobics says, this has been absolutely brilliant. I've got another one. I'm not wearing my glasses. I can't even see. Jacob Burke, the beautiful man. Fucking love it. Incredible. So pumped. Love it, G. Dude, you've been bringing the fire. I love your work, dude. And you have inspired me as well. Since we've been having these dealings, Gab, I have generally leveled up and I've got a great story for you that I'm not going to share now. But a really great story about when we first met and what came off the back of it. So I love what you're doing. Guys, if you've loved this, if you appreciate Gavin Rubinstein, as I said, there's one of 20 limited edition Win More t-shirts that have been dropped. They will be released next week. So if you like this, in LinkedIn, on Instagram, tag Gav, tag the digital sales community, tag TRG, and tag myself. And you'll get one of these, one of 20 limited editions. Once they're gone, they're gone. They're going to be attached to an NFT as well. So it'll be the first time we've ever done it, which is super, super cool. And it's actually got an R on the bottom, not for necessarily Rubinstein, but release one. But let's go with that. So Gav, the final question I have for you, mate, is what's the one last thing that you want to leave the community with? If there was one last takeaway for the guys to ensure the success, what would that be?
I'm going to give you two.
Please.
So first is make passion your paycheck, which kind of ties into, a bit of the stuff I said, but I think it summarizes it well. You know what I mean? Make passion your paycheck. So this life that we have, man, it's a short thing, and it's enjoy it, enjoy what the hell you're doing. And then the second point, never, ever, ever give up. Like no matter what, if you know it's right, don't let people, naysayers, negativity, because when you're doing something different, there's always going to be people who are going to talk shit and don't agree with you, whether it's your family or sideline watchers or whatever the hell it is, or maybe you're not doing good or you're not getting to where you want to be, but just never give up no matter what. That's what I say.
How cool was that? I'm not sure if you're like me, but I've learned that if you want to be the best, you have to learn from the best. The reason why Tom Brady is Tom Brady, Serena Williams is Serena Williams, is because they spend 95% of their time practicing the right skills. They constantly tweak and fine tune. So that way, when an opportunity arises to win a championship, they absolutely dominate. Business is no different. If you want to be the best, you need to train, upskill, and learn the right skills. If you believe sales is paramount to your success, if you believe that promoting is paramount to your success, if you believe that marketing personal brand is paramount to your success, and you want to be in the top 1% of your field like Gavin, then you want to join the digital sales community today, the #1 membership for business owners. So click now to join the digital sales community. We look forward to being part of your success. And most importantly, let's win more.
Hey. I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the